Hi, I'm Mike Marino, and this is a brand new episode of Live from My Mother's Basement. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Live from My Mother's Basement. You could probably hear in the enthusiasm of my voice how happy I am to have this guest come on my show, because I've known this comedian pretty much my whole career. We've done shitloads of shows together. He went on to become a superstar. I was so lucky to get him on the phone and said, listen, you son of a bitch, you need to come over to my apartment. I wish this was my house, but you need to come over. You need to do the show with me. And he said, sure, I'll be right over. I got nothing to do. This is Maz Jobrani, ladies and gentlemen.
What's up, Mike? Now here's the question. Are you looking at the camera or are you looking at yourself? What do you look at?
I'm supposed to look at the guest.
Yeah, look at me.
I'm supposed to look at the guest. We could look at the camera. You could look at it. I don't give a fuck what you look at. Just roast the shit out of me.
It's this is going to be.
Thank you so much for
I took
coming
your
over.
class. I took his class years ago. I took your stand-up comedy class years ago.
Please tell everybody that story.
Look
Maz.
at this. I took your class. So years ago, Mike Marino, you had a room at Masker's Cabaret.
3rd Street in Los Angeles.
3rd Street, Los Angeles, Masker's Cabaret. I was doing it, and I did it a couple of times. He said, I'm going to do a class, and I took it, and it was fun because one of the things we learned in your class, you were trying to help us figure out crowd work.
Yeah.
So you were like, all right, someone will be doing something, and then you guys, us as the students, we had to try to like heckle you or something, and then you were getting us all trained on that. Now the funny thing is, at the end of our class, we had a performance at Masker's, and we get there to perform, and I just started dating my now wife, then girlfriend, and she's this like professional lawyer. She's beautiful Indian girl, and I brought her to the Masker's show, and we're all backstage, and the audience was stiff that night, like, and you were trying to get them going. So Mike was out there trying to warm them up for us. We were all amateurs. We don't know what we're doing. And all of a sudden, Mike, remember you had the cigarette. Mike used to put a cigarette right here. Because I think, were you quitting or you quit or something?
I was imitating my dad.
Oh, so you had a cigarette right here. And my then wife, then girlfriend, also was a smoker. So she's watching the Mike do his thing. He had the thing over there, and the crowd was stiff. And at some point, we're backstage with all the other comics, and we hear someone go, hey, Mike, what are you going to do with that cigarette? And and I'm hearing the voice. I go, that sounds like that girl, because I just met her. And then Mike's like, hey, I don't know, what do you want me to do? And then she said something like, stick it up your ass. And all the students were like, is that your date? And I go, I think it is. And you came back, you're like, who's that? I go, I don't know, Mike, I don't know. And then later on, I go, what were you doing? I asked her. She goes, no, I was trying to be part of the show. You know how some people think they're helping? Yeah. And she goes, I was trying to haggle. I go, first of all, it's not haggle, it's heckle. And I go, secondly, no, he's my teacher. You're not supposed to be yelling at him. But I ended up marrying that girl.
Unbelievable. And you heard that story right here on Live from My Mother's Basement. You know, when you were telling me that story, it almost makes me want to regurgitate the fact that I tell people all the time, sometimes the worst audience is your friends and family.
Oh, God.
I'm glad he agreed. Look at the face he just made. Oh, yeah.
Well, the worst is when you get someone. So first of all, sometimes the staff at the place doesn't know. So they seat that person, that your relative or somebody, right up front. And now you're trying to be in the moment and have a good time, but you keep looking down and there's like Uncle whatever, and your uncle's sitting there staring at you. And you're like, oh my God. And now you've got history. So obviously when you have strangers in the front, that's best, because then you get to know, you do the crowd work, you get to know them. But when you have people that you know, I think they expect you to be funny. The audience doesn't know, so they think like, oh, you should do crowd work with them. And then you start explaining, this is my uncle, and from my mother's side. Now it just starts derailing the show. It's the worst. Yeah.
Friends and family are always the worst audience because they know you, you know them, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
What are you going to say? Mom, please.
Yeah.
I told you not to sit in the front.
Yeah.
How'd you even get in here?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you now, also the other thing is sometimes I feel like I hate a homogenous crowd, and I hate a crowd that's coming and expecting one kind of, like, wants you to do material for them. This is corporate events. This is also ethnically homogenous. And quite often, especially since like you're Italian, I'm Iranian, if I have a room full of Iranians, I feel like they're judging me. And I think part of that is because I felt as a kid that my parents' friends would judge me, and my parents wanted me to be something that I didn't want to be. So all that psychology comes on stage, and I go on stage and I go, I can't talk about, let's say whatever. Let's say I want to talk about something that's going on in my house and my family. I feel like they're staring at me, like you said, like it's almost like I know them, and they're staring at me. They expect something, and I'm like, ah. And quite often I'll like kind of not turn on them, but I'll be like, you guys are like, stop staring at me.
Yeah,
They're like, we're here to watch the show.
Yeah.
What do you want us to do?
What I would like to do is I want to go back in time with Maz's career. Like, when did it start? Where do you come from? The history of, where were you born? When did you come to what I call Hell A, the crazy area of where all the performers from around the world just stack into one street, it seems like. And then everybody has that idea, well, I could make it in this business. And then, and also the heartbreak of this business that makes you think, what the hell am I even doing this for? And then the success, and then back down to heartbreak, and then up again. And then the friends you have that are entertainers that you admire, and you can get them on the phone. However, you probably don't even bother them.
Well, you actually, I run into you from time to time. You've always been a positive guy. And I remember early on watching you and loving what you're doing. And I remember my sister loved what you were doing. And I remember my family, everybody loved you on stage because you were so fun and loving and funny. And I remember I ran into you once, and I think we were talking about something like, yeah, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, And you were like, sometimes we forget to also celebrate what we've done.
Yes, it's hard, and I don't know why that is, because let's say a couple of days ago, I was working on a TV project.
Yeah.
And I pulled into the parking lot really early. I haven't worked on a TV project in Hollywood in a long, long time, and I knew what traffic would be like. So I pulled into the place early, and here's this young kid, like 18, 19, who's in the project. And I pull into the parking lot, and he lost it. Holy shit. It's Mike Marino. Oh, my God, I can't believe you're here. Yeah. I got to hug you. I'm so honored. I'm honored to be working with you. And can I call my mother? I want to call my mother. Yeah. Mom, he's here. And I'm FaceTiming this stranger. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going like, this is not really that big a deal, kid.
Yeah.
It's not really that big a deal. Then I realized I did what he did.
Yeah.
I did the same identical thing when I did sketches on the Tonight Show, and what was his name? This famous comedian was on the show. He was doing a cooking show. Dom DeLuise.
Dom DeLuise, of course.
Dom DeLuise is on the show, and what did I do? Can I call my mother?
Yeah.
And I put him on the phone with my mother.
Yeah.
And he's talking to my mother for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They're talking about recipes and Italian shit.
Dom DeLuise.
And my mother's going, is that really him? Because don't forget, there was no FaceTime.
Yeah, of course.
Long distance call.
Yeah. Is it an impersonator? Yeah.
So getting back to what you said, sometimes we don't take a moment to go, you know what, I am pretty successful.
Yeah,
I could take a moment.
Celebrate what you've done. Is because I think the problem becomes in this hamster wheel and rat race that we're all in, not just in our business, but in any business. I think people are always so worried about the next thing. It's the anxiety of I got to get the next thing. I got to do the next thing. I got to nowadays I got to post on social. I got to do this, that, the other. Versus sometimes going like, hey, I've done some stuff, and I should be, And also, by the way, I've put in the time. That's the other thing you got to remember, because sometimes we doubt ourselves and we go, oh, am I going to be able to, do well in this audience? Am I going to be able to, oh my God, I'm a little nervous about this. And you go, no, I've been doing this 25 years. I think I got the tools.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that.
I love having these conversations because when you have these conversations with fellow entertainers that you admire, it makes you think, wow, he's right. I do think that way, but I didn't put into perspective until you reminded me that I should.
Yeah.
So where exactly were you born?
So I was born in Iran, and I left Iran when I was about 6 years old in 1978. There was a revolution that was happening in the country, and my family had to flee. I was lucky enough that my father had been a successful businessman there and was able to get his money out. So we first moved to Northern California, and lived in a place called Marin, which is very nice. It was pretty idyllic upbringing, and I was immediately exposed to American, culture, because back when I was growing up, there just weren't that many other Iranian kids. There was a handful of them, but all my friends were just Americans. I fell in love with baseball. I fell in love with other sports, football, comedy. That was one of the first things. I would sit there. My parents, being immigrant parents, they're off doing their thing. And back then, just any parent, it was very rare that parents were as hands-on as we are now. But I'd be, downstairs watching like Bugs Bunny and Woody Woodpecker and Popeye and all that stuff. And then eventually that transitioned into discovering comedy on TV and Saturday Night Live and Eddie Murphy. And then I loved Eddie Murphy. And I still remember watching Eddie Murphy in 48 Hours, which was, I think, his second movie, because I think his first one was Trading Places. But it was 48 Hours. I was anticipating seeing Eddie Murphy in 48 Hours. And now again, granted, this is probably like, I'm about 10 years old, 11 years old. It's a rated R movie. Somehow my parents didn't care. Somebody took us. I don't think they took us. They just dropped us off with somebody. I just remember the very first scene when Nick Nolte walks into San Quentin to get Eddie Murphy, who's in San Quentin doing time, and he needs him to help him find this guy. And the first scene, you just hear Police's Roxanne, and he's singing Roxanne, and he goes, "You better put on the red light," and he's singing Roxanne. He's got his headphones on, and I just remember falling out of my chair. It was so funny to me.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to be, and then from there I go, "Oh my God, I want to be like this guy." We got Delirious. That's probably the album I've listened to the most. The special Delirious. Before that, he had just Eddie Murphy, which was a tape. We would listen to that with friends. So I wanted to be Eddie Murphy, but coming from an immigrant background, my parents were like lawyer, doctor, engineer, that kind of stuff. So I got into my junior high, seventh grade. I went and got into the musical, and I was on stage, and I love being on stage.
This is in Northern California.
Northern California, yeah. So back then I was like, we were doing The Boyfriend, which was a musical, and I was like, it was 7th and 8th graders. I was a 7th grader, so I had like I was an extra in the play. And I was in the background dancing, and the director, her name was Shirley Bombright. She goes, "If you guys are on stage, when you're in a musical, you got to always smile and have energy." So one day I show up, and I have a cold, and I have a little under the weather. I go, "Miss Bombright, you told us to always show up because it's an ensemble. There are no small parts, only small actors. I'm here. I'm just letting you know I'm a little under the weather." So we start rehearsing. And I'm back there, I'm singing, dancing, I'm smiling. I'm sick, but I'm smiling. She stops the whole thing. She's like, "Everybody stop." She goes, "You see that guy? You see what he's doing? That's what you all got to be doing." Like, she was trying to tell them, like, pay attention and smile and be present. And that was me going like, oh, me? Like, it was positive reinforcement. And from there, they gave me a couple of lines. And, and then the next year, they made me the lead of the play. I was Little Abner. So all of that took off. And it got in my head. I was like, I could do this.
Little Abner.
Yeah, I was Little Abner.
But before we continue, is your first language what?
Persian. So
Persian.
I learned. So I was born. Being born in Iran, we spoke Persian. But then in Iran, I was going to an international school, so I was already learning English.
Right. Okay.
But I didn't know American English as well. Probably, I think our teachers were probably British. So when I came to America and started learning, like, whatever, the slang and all that other stuff, it was a trip. I remember somebody telling me like pussycat is also pussy. I was like, whoa. Oh, geez. Like, what the hell? So so that was when I got the bug. But my parents kept being like, no, you got to do something else. So then when I went to college, I studied political science because I thought I was going to be a lawyer because my parents wanted me to be a lawyer. But throughout, every time I would be on stage, the director, the teacher, whoever it was like, you got the thing. You got you got that factor. So go, finish undergrad, get a political science degree, decide I'm going to go be a professor and get my PhD in political science. So that's when I moved down to LA in 1993, moved down to LA and got into the PhD program. But I went and auditioned for the play because I've been doing acting my whole high school years. So I was good on stage. So I got into that play. And then by night we would rehearse, and I loved it. And then by day, I'd be in the PhD program going, what's the purpose of a political scientist? They were like, well, you got to publish or perish. You got to write a book, go around the world and defend it. I go, I don't want to do that. So I dropped out of that. And basically, at that point, got a day job. And then I was in my mid-20s, and I was going to save up some money and try my hand at comedy and acting. And I ran into this guy. His name was Joe Rhine. Joe Rhine was in his 60s at the time. He worked at the advertising agency. Very positive guy. I said, Joe, my strategy is I'm going to save some money, go for it in my 30s. He goes, let me tell you something. He goes, I'm in my 60s now. He goes, when I was in my 20s, there were some things I wanted to do. I never got around to doing it. He goes, if you really want to do it now. Light bulb moment. I'm 26 years old. I go, you know what? I'm going to do it. And that's when I first enrolled in an improv class. That led me to Judy Carter's stand-up comedy class.
Judy Carter, yeah.
And then eventually that led me to doing all the open mics and stuff, meeting you, meeting everybody else. And then it led me to taking your class. And the thing I learned, and to this day, I tell young comedians, I go, get on stage as much as you can, write as much as you can. And I remember, as a matter of fact, I don't know if you remember this, but because I'd gotten to know you and you were a regular at the Comedy Store, you used to tell us, you said, hey, come to the Comedy Store, come watch me work in the original room. So I would come watch. I'd see you, Sergio Love, Mike Young, all the guys going up late. And then at one point I was like, hey, Mike, because we needed someone to recommend us. So I asked you to recommend me. I remember at first you were like, I don't know, are you sure? I was like, just give me a shot, Mike. And you stepped up and you did it, man. So you recommended me. So
I remember that.
Yeah.
I did that for a bunch of different guys. I always came from a family of, why don't anybody help each other?
Yeah.
It's the big deal.
Yeah.
You know, if you could do the right thing by somebody, maybe in the future do the right thing by you.
Yeah.
Don't do it for that reason because you'll get disappointed if they don't.
Yeah.
But if you got the power to do it, why not do it?
Yeah.
And these days, I mean, I still have a lot of people ask me for favors, but eventually you start going, you know, sometimes every favor is a kick in my own ass.
Well, you got to make sure that, like I said, like you got to make sure that you're either that person's ready, or if you're doing them a favor, let's say the favor is like, I want you to introduce me to so and so. Sometimes you go, listen, I love you. What I'm going to do is, and I love that person, so I'm going to tell them, hey, this is so and so. They're going to ask you something. Feel free to say no to them. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's ways of, because you're right, because everybody thinks just because you know somebody that, oh, would you introduce me to Steven Spielberg? I want him to make my movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. The right person for the right thing at the right time.
Yes.
You know, you're a very successful, I say entertainer because he's also an actor. And because he started in theater, he's been in television, been in movies, does a lot of stand-up comedy, very successful. And now you're working with a couple of guys that I think are fantastic. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. And Tehran, who you're working with, introduced me to this guy they call Pork Chops.
Oh, yeah.
And now we're working together because I was like, this guy's cool. He fits this situation.
Yeah, yeah.
So now we're doing things.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I'll call Tehran to break his balls. I'll be like, yeah, listen, this guy's a real jerk. I don't know why. What kind of dirt do you have on me?
Yeah.
But to me, that's living in joy.
Absolutely. Listen, Mike, we're lucky. I was telling my kids, so my kids are now 15 and 13, and I was driving them they take the bus in the morning, and I was doing a local gig. And, you know, when you do a local gig, you don't get paid as much as you do when you're on the road. So it was a local gig, and it paid whatever, a couple $100, whatever it was. It wasn't that much. But I'd gone out the night before, and I did it, and I really had fun doing it. And I just remember in the morning driving them to the bus stop. I go, guys, last night when I left to go do my thing, I said I got to go tell jokes, and I really had a good time. And I said, and somebody paid me for it. I go, who's winning now? And that's really it. I mean, like you said, you live in joy. We are so lucky to be surrounded with the people we're surrounded. And by the way, it keeps us young. Like I just went because Tehran was in Australia, and I was doing La Jolla, the Comedy Store, and I brought another guy to open for me, this guy named Eunice. He's 26 years old, young. And it's just like the young generation keeps us young because we got to be on our toes. And there's nothing better than this. But at the same time, somebody loves doing whatever people love. Like that's the main thing is if you're lucky enough to find what you love, then do it because that's living in joy, as you said.
It's funny you say that because I love what I do. I got friends my age going, I can't wait to retire. I can't do this. I'm like, I'm never going to retire.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait to go to work. This is all I do. I dream about this still to this day. And like you just said, I can't believe I'm so happy that so many comedians actually think the same.
Yeah.
we have friends in town. They'll be doing a Tuesday night room or a Wednesday night room. You're not going to make any money.
Yeah.
You might take home a couple of $100 or maybe even $50.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I'm like, you don't even have to pay me. I'm just happy you're here.
Yeah.
I'll take the hamburger. Fuck the 50.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm happy that I'm here. You know what? I think I'm going to practice some new shit tonight.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll bring back something old. I'm happy I'm actually doing this.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to make my money this weekend anyway.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to make it here. I'm going to Detroit.
Well, it's like, if you're like a professional athlete, there's a pickup game, you're going to get into it. Similarly, if you're into technology or whatever it is, you would do it for free, and now you're lucky you're getting paid to do it. Like you just said the other night, I was in New York and I got a chance to go work the Village Underground. And again, you don't get paid that much when you're working there. The whole point is it's like, oh, there's a rock and roll room. You're gonna have fun. And I got there and I got a chance I did my set, and then I stayed and watched these other young comics going up. And I just I enjoyed it. I had a glass of wine. I just was like, it was fantastic. It was a great time. So, and as you said, I don't want to retire either, but it's funny because I was at a friend's father's memorial. The father was like in his 90s. He passed away. And at the memorial, I had all these like 80-year-old ladies coming up going like, I'm your biggest fan. I come to all your shows. And I was like, oh shit, I better hurry up and do my shows because my fan base is dying. So I better hurry up, talk fast, fast and loud. They're in their 80s.
That's true too, and I'm glad that you said that because I got to bring this up real quick.
Yeah.
Every year in January, I go get a physical, make sure I'm healthy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And one of those checkups is the arteries in the neck, in the heart, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I forgot what the test is called, but this lady, every time I walk in there, how's Muzz? He's my favorite.
There you go.
I love Muzz.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, lady, do you smoke cigarettes? She smells like cigarette smoke. She's a smoker, and here she is checking my heart.
Hilarious.
But she says that every time. She's like, how's Muzz?
That's so funny. No. Well, I always say my fan base being like, so I've got a lot of Persian fans. I got Middle Eastern fans. I got Armenian fans, and especially in LA, there's a lot of people from that part of the world that are either doctors or Uber drivers. So that tends to be my demographic. People call me all the time like, I'm in an Uber. This guy wants to say hi. And the guy's like, hello, my friend. I'm, hey, what's up? And also, I'm getting my heart checked. My doctor, hey, what's up? So those are my fan base, man.
My doctor, I've been seeing for, I guess, 30 years.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what he is, but I could tell you this. Whenever my exams are done, we feel like he's my buddy. He hugs me. I miss you, funny. Mike. I love you. Be well.
Wow.
I'm glad your blood is great. Your checkup is great. I love you. I think he's Jewish.
Yeah.
But when the lady does the heart thing, it is fucking. I'm a good big fan of Jobrani.
You should tell her, you need to stop smoking, lady.
I don't say nothing. How are you checking a heart and you a cigarette smoker? What the hell? What's going on? So you've been doing stand-up now a pretty long time.
25 years.
It's 25?
Yeah.
I'm 31 years doing stand-up comedy.
Wow.
I didn't start doing stand-up till I came to California. It's not something I set out to do. I always just wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
But since my culture is Italian and we're supposed to have dark hair and dark eyes and do mob roles, it was never working for me because I don't have that look.
Yeah.
So one day when I was just doing stand-up somewhere, trying to crack it, trying to see if this is something I could do, I actually met Mitzi Shore's accountant.
Wow.
And this is a long time ago. It's got to be 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm Mitzi Shore's accountant. Why don't you come and do an audition for Mitzi? And at that time, I was trying to be an improv guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the improv was never giving me the time of day. So I started running maskers down the block. Because I'm like, you know what? I can't wait for somebody to help me. I got to go make a living.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I might as well get in my Jeep and drive back to Jersey.
Sure.
So I go to do an audition for Mitzi, and that's how I got the audition. And I remember going in there, and I would do impersonations. Because I thought, well, Dice does impersonations. These guys do impersonations. This could be the thing.
Yeah.
So I did like Sylvester Stallone and Al Pacino and De Niro and everybody that the typical Italian guy was doing.
Yeah.
I walk off the stage, and I remember her sitting there going, why would you do that?
Oh, wow.
Why would you do that? That's not who you are. I don't get it.
Oh, wow.
And no. And I says, oh, okay. And she goes, but there's something about you that I think I like. I'm not used to seeing a surfer type looking guy, sound like he's from the streets.
Oh wow, how cool is
So
that?
I says, okay, well, what do you want me to do? She goes, come back in a couple of months and do something else. And I went back and did the identical thing
Oh wow.
because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, you were nervous.
I didn't really know my
Yeah.
routine. So I do these impersonations. Then I walk off stage and she comes home. She was sitting in the chair,
Yeah.
with everybody fucking crowding in on her. But at that time, I was friends with Wheels Parisi. So he's blocking the other comedians from bothering Mitzi for me.
Yeah.
And she goes like this, why did you do that? And I says, I don't know, lady. I think this is what I wanted to do. And she goes, that's not going to work. You're not telling me who you are. And I go like this, I'll tell you who I am. I fucking hate California. This place sucks. I'm in traffic all the time. My Jeep's breaking down. I can't find a good slice of pizza. And all I ever wanted to be was De Niro. This sucks. And she goes, now that's who you are.
There you go.
I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
She goes, start calling in, leave your avails.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
She was a guru, man. It was funny because for me, it was almost the opposite in that. So you got me the audition, and I went and did. So people.
Wait a minute. Let's even go way back. I got you the audition. That means we had to have called Scotty Day.
Was it Scotty Day? It was Corey.
Princess Corey.
Princess Corey, who was married to Freddie Soto.
Freddie Soto.
So she was the booker at the time. You called her up, you got me the audition, and it was interesting because I'd done open mics at the Laugh Factory before, but I'd never done open mics at the store. I'd done shows at the store because I did the Belly Room with Skippy Lowe and Christy. What was the name of the girl that was with you? And
Christy McBride.
Christy McBride, yeah.
Wow.
So
Southerner.
So I had done the Belly Room. I'd never done the other rooms. I'd been hanging out at the Comedy Store. You got me the audition, and it was the first time I'd also put in for the open mic. So it kind of like coincided, and they called me to go. Come do your 3. So people that don't know, you would do 3 in front of Mitzi on an open mic night on Sunday. If she liked you, she'd get word to you to come do 6 another week. So then you come do 6. She liked you, they get word to you to come do 10. So I got the 3, the 6, and the 10. And the other person or team that was moving up with me there was these 2 black guys that used to perform out on Venice Boulevard. They were very funny. They were like street performers. Very funny.
Wow. Who?
I forget their names, but they were quick. They were funny. They would do like flips, and they were great. They were seasoned because they'd been doing this act for a long time. So they and I kind of moved up together. In the end, they didn't make it because I think she felt like, oh, this is like it's an act. Again, like you said, I don't know who you are.
Right.
But for me, she didn't have any other Middle Eastern comics at the club at the time. And so I do my 3, 6, 10. I finish my 10. And as you walk by, the way I always describe it, I go the walk from the stage to where Mitzi's sitting right next to the exit sign in this dark room is like about 20 feet, but it feels like 100-foot like plank walk. And you're like, oh my God. And the whole time I knew that Eddie Murphy performed there. I knew Richard Pryor, all these guys that I looked up to. And in my mind, if Mitzi makes me a regular, I'm going to, the next day I'm going to be accepting my Academy Award, So I'm like walking by, and the key is like, if she lets you walk past her, you're screwed. Get out of here. See you in a year. But if she grabs your arm, you're in. So I'm walking, I'm like, please grab my arm, please grab my arm. And she grabs my arm, and I'm like, oh my God. And then she pulls me close, and she goes, you're very funny. I go, thank you, Mitzi. She goes, I'm going to make you a regular. I go, thank you, Mitzi. And she goes, you ever thought about wearing the outfit? I go, what outfit? She goes, the hat and the gown. I go, hat and gown? She goes, the hat and the gown. She wanted me to wear a turban and a dishtasha on stage. So different from you, where she was like, who are you? She was telling me, you should be like an Arab-looking dude up there. And I was like, I go, yeah, sure. Okay, that's a good idea. And I walked past her into the hallway, and I go, oh my God, what have I just agreed to do? I'm going to have to show up in looking like an Arab dude. And I go, you know what? She's older. Maybe she'll forget. I swear to God. And then that next Monday, I'm at work, and I get a call from Corey, whom I knew, the booker. She goes, hey, Maz, it's Corey. How are you? I'm good. She goes, Mitzi told me you're regular. I go, yes, I am. She goes, and she told me you're going to wear the outfit. I go, I go, Corey, what happens if I don't wear the outfit? She goes, do I really have to tell you? Which meant like you're not going to get spots. And now I got into this thing for the next 2 weeks where I was trying to figure out how to get on stage without like selling myself out. Because I was first of all, I was like, I'm selling myself out. Secondly, I go, every comedian is going to laugh me off that stage. Thirdly, that's not what I want to be. So I was like trying to compromise, and I was like talking to Corey. I go, Corey, what if I do my act and towards the end I do this character? She's like, I love it, I love it. Back and forth, back and forth. Finally, I was like, I was trying to come up with a way to get out, and I told my sister, I go, listen, I remember hearing about this one guy who was Iranian in LA, who was making fun of the mullahs, the guys who wear the turbans back in Iran, and he would do it on like Persian television. So word got back to them that this guy's making fun of them. And so their supporters, one time there was like some kind of political rally, and this guy was on stage, saying stuff against the Islamic Republic. And some of the supporters showed up, and they threw a rock and they hit him in the eye and they blinded the guy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I took that story and the fact that my father had moved back to Iran, and I called Corey up. I go, Corey, listen, I've been working on the outfit. I've been like shopping around looking for turbans. I hadn't been doing that. I go, but just to let you know two things. First of all, my father's in Iran. So if word gets back that his son's making fun of the leadership in Iran, he might be in trouble. I go, worse yet, there was a guy who was doing this in LA. They showed up, they blinded him. So I go, they could come after me. They could come after the club. And so she's like, oh, really? I go, yeah, this is real shit. So then she's like, let me call you back. She called back. She's like, Mitzi said, wear something comfortable. You'll be fine. So after that, I got out to wear the outfit, man.
That is the fucking greatest story. And you know what's really wild, too? Guess who did that to me?
Jamie Masada.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
He said you need to wear a suit and tie and a fedora.
Oh, my
I'm like, Jamie,
God.
I really don't want to wear a hat. I don't want to dress in a suit and tie. He goes, no, you got to be an authentic mobster. I go, but I don't really do stuff about being in the mob. It's just an Italian thing.
Yeah.
He goes, I'll give you your own show on a Friday night. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
And you tried it.
You tried for a little while.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Well, it's like, there was, remember, what's his name? Was it Valentino? What was his name? The guy? He was a really nice guy. Dominic something was his name. Very nice. I forget his last name.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Holy shit.
Nicest guy.
What the fuck was his name?
Good-looking guy. Funny guy. But like you just said, I think Jamie, I don't know if Jamie made him do it or if he had come up with it, but he had this character that was like the lover.
The lover.
Right? And he would show up and you'd be talking to him backstage. He's like, hey, what's up? And he's like, I got to go get ready. And then he'd go get into his white suit and with a wine. He would stir the wine. He'd be like, I am here for you. And it was funny, but the problem becomes it's tougher to make it like that. I mean, Dice obviously went from, Andrew, what's his last name? Silverstein to Dice. So some people can create the character and it works. Larry the Cable Guy. But it's a hard road to do it as a character, I think. It is.
It's too much. Yeah. I remember that guy. What the hell was his name?
Dominic something.
Dominic Fig.
Dominic Fig, yeah.
A white suit with his chest hanging out.
Yeah, he was a lover. The Latin lover.
Yeah. And after a while, like, okay, dude, who are you?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Sometimes people aren't really right about what they tell you to do. Especially when they have the power to give you the stage. You feel like going, can I just do what I want?
Yeah, you got to follow your gut. You got to take advice, but also follow your gut. In that case, look, that pigeonholes you. I mean, I even to this day, even though I didn't go that route, sometimes people will be like, oh, he's be introducing me to someone. He's a Persian comedian. I go, please don't say that. I go, I'm a comedian who happens to be Persian. But if you see my act, I talk about my life. I talk about my kids. I talk about my wife. I talk about the world. You know what I'm saying? So
I know exactly what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying.
Because a lot of people say, oh, the Italian comedian. I'm like, no, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I can go on stage and not even mention any of that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, half the stuff I do is about getting older and having conversations with doctors that are more important than anything in my world. So if I didn't say it, some people kind of get confused with the fact that I sound like where I'm from.
Yeah.
It actually has nothing to do with being Italian. My parents don't. Well, they're not around anymore, but when they were, they didn't sound like me. They spoke like they were people from Italy that had an Italian accent, a real one. Yeah. This is Jersey, actually. Which confuses people out here. They think I'm from New York. It's actually a lot different.
Yeah.
But you found a niche with your culture.
Yeah, so what happened was, to her credit now, after Mitzi brought me on, as you just said, like she used to do with you guys, she used to do, what, Guido Night or something? What was it called?
Night of 1,000 Guidos.
Night of 1,000 Guidos. So she used to do these theme shows. She had like the women of comedy, black comedy night, Latino night. So Mitzi was Jewish. She's watching the news, and there was just like now we have the Israelis and the Palestinians fighting. there was an uprising was happening. They were fighting. This was in, I think, early 2000s. And Mitzi, being Jewish, was like, I think there's going to be a need for a positive voice for Muslims and Middle Easterners and Arabs and all that stuff from that part of the world. So I was a regular at the time. She had seen Ahmed do some show in the main room, so she liked him. Then at that point, Duncan was the booker, and he called me up. He goes, "Do you know any other Middle Eastern comedians?" I go, "There's a guy who's half Palestinian named Aaron Cater." I go, "Maybe he fit." And then Sam Tripoli, who was my friend and had started out with me, he'd auditioned for her, and she had not passed him. But then I called him up. I go, "Sam, your last name's Tripoli. Are you from Libya? What's your background?" He goes, "I'm half Armenian." I go, "I think that'll work." And it's not Middle Eastern. So I called Duncan. I go, and Duncan knew Sam too. I go, "Duncan, Sam's half Armenian. That should work." Because there was nobody. We didn't have anybody. It's not like, if you say like Black Comedy Night, there's, a thousand, right?
Tons.
Right? And even at that point, there was probably a good enough number of Italian comedians or Latino. There was none of us. Like we were just all starting out. So she put us together and she called it the Arabian Nights. And what was interesting was, I honestly didn't know that there was an appetite for this, because this is, again, early 2000s, before September 11th. So what happens is we're doing our thing and audiences are coming out, because I think people from my background felt like, oh, we've been misrepresented for a long time. This is good. So one of our people is making people laugh. And then, of course, September 11th happens, and that just puts us on like steroids, because now all the national press wants to know, who are these Middle Easterners doing comedy? So we ended up in like the New York Times and Time Magazine, and you name it, they were interviewing us. And but to Mitzi's credit, she's the one who put us together as the Arabian Nights. And then eventually me, Ahmed, and Aaron Cater kind of realized that we were the real, like, our backgrounds were Middle Eastern and our audiences really got us. So we created the Axis of Evil comedy tour together. And then that just took us, that became a comedy special on the Comedy Central. And that just really kind of helped us.
I remember all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really wild how that worked out for you guys. I hope you guys are still friends. I hope you still tour together. Maybe you could do like a reunion, because I remember it was going strong.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in the world these days with all the bullshit that's going on in the Gaza Strip and all of that stuff. I mean, I'm not 100%. It confuses.
Yeah.
Like, let's say the average white guy.
Yeah.
I'll put it out like that.
Yeah.
Because I'll be driving down the street and I'll see a protest.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, wait a minute. You guys are really blocking everything, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of trouble. It's scary.
Yeah.
It looks scary to me.
Yeah.
And I saw that a couple of days ago here in California. Now, in New York, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
I won't even go into the city anymore.
Yeah,
I live in the suburbs.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that.
Yeah.
You go into the city and you're like, oh, hey, man, it looks like there's going to be a riot.
Right. Well, I think most protesters, I mean, obviously, I'm learning more and more about the struggle with the Palestinians and the Israelis and all that. And like you said, you drive through Beverly Hills, there's a pro-Israel protest. You go to another part of town, there's a pro-Palestinian protest. Ultimately, I think that, America needs to pay attention. I think one of the things that happened was, over the past, I mean, it's been now 75 or some odd years, a lot of the world has kind of ignored it. They've tried, but we haven't been able to come up with a solution. A lot of people talk about what's called a two-state solution, which means the Israelis would have their state and the Palestinians would have their state, and they'd be recognized. And hopefully we would help, currently, like you were saying, in Gaza, before this war, Gaza was poor. And so, it would be nice if the world realized that, oh, we gotta give these people infrastructure. And I was talking to a Jewish friend of mine recently, and he was saying, well, why is it that, people say, oh, if the Palestinian kid grows up and like there's been, something like his family was in a war and he lost a relative or whatever, why would he turn then to become radicalized and want to fight the Israelis? I said, because one of the problems is we haven't given the people of that area another option. So that's one of the things. Like, a lot of times Americans, I think we, not just with Gaza, but anywhere in the world, we're very simple as going like, well, why do they hate us? Why don't they just get their shit together? And the answer becomes that part of the world, whatever that part of the world is it's either been we've either had some sort of hand in taking their resources and leaving them poor, and or working with some people to oppress that population. And if you don't give an 18-year-old an option to go educate themselves and go live a better life, what do you think they're going to do, right? And so I think, it's a complicated problem, and you're right to say, hey, I don't really know much, but I'm always curious about it. Like, I want to know what's going on. And even like the border issue we have right now. I know New York City, a lot of people say like, it's not as safe as it was and all that other stuff. But again, when you look at the countries that are coming to the border and trying to get in, people that are trying to get in, a lot of those countries, we had a hand in destabilizing. So the question becomes, let's come up with a solution that can help stabilize that place so people don't want to flee it. Because the truth is, being an immigrant myself, I always say this, like when I hear anti-immigrant sentiment, it really upsets me because I go, very few people are living in a country and doing great and going like, we don't speak the language over there. They hate us. Let's pack my family and go. Italians came, my people came, Jews came. A lot of people came to this country because they were fleeing a bad situation. So for us to then turn around and go, no, let's close the border, 100%, I think is inhumane. I'm not saying let everybody in. I'm saying let's come up with a solution. But the problem becomes, it becomes so political that a lot of politicians don't even want to do anything about it because they can use it to their advantage to go, look, they're coming to get us. Anytime people say the biggest threat to America are immigrants, I go, you know what the biggest threat to America are? Are Americans. We have some crazy motherfuckers living in this country doing some crazy shit all the time.
Sometimes it's the people running the country.
Yeah.
It's out of control.
Yeah. So, that's my take on all that stuff.
It's a sad situation. Sometimes you wish they would let people like us run the country. I know exactly what to do. Calm down. Calm down.
Hit them with the bat.
I got this. It's funny. Since you said that, this is a good little subject. You ever perform somewhere and someone yells out for you to do a specific joke that you haven't done in 10 years?
Oh, yeah.
And you're kind of like,
yeah.
All right. And then you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Do you do it?
Yeah.
Or do you disappoint the person?
Well, I always I'll sometimes explain the joke rather than doing the joke. Like if somebody says like, so my joke was like early on, I'm talking about how Iranians don't say we're Iranian. We say we're Persian because it sounds nicer and friendlier. And we were like, no, I'm not Iranian, I'm Persian, like the cat, meow. And that became this little catchphrase, right?
Yeah.
So anywhere I go, people are like, hey, Jobrani, Persian cat, meow. And so I've had people like in the audience, hey, Persian cat. And I go, oh my God, that's a joke I used to do 20 years ago. And then I kind of like just talk through it. And it still gets a chuckle or two here and there. Interestingly enough, I'm not doing a joke about that relies on the idea of how I had a suitcase filled with T-shirts with the saying on it. And that suitcase got lost. And in order to get to this story, I talk about this joke. So again, I explain the joke. And it's just like an added little mini punchline because I'm not committed to it because I'm not doing my joke from 20 years ago. I'm just explaining. I used to have this joke, and this is how it went. Like if you were doing it, you'd be like, I used to have a joke, and the punchline was hit him with a bat. So I had all these shirts, and the joke went like this, and you kind of do it. So I think we're storytellers,
right?
And it's okay to bring back an old story if it's going to be part of a new story. You understand what I'm saying? What's sad, I think you'll agree, is when we see some of our colleagues doing the same joke from 20 years ago, and they're committed to it, and they're like, "This is the joke," and I'm going like, "Ugh, you got to write some because you're not evolving, just,
right?
As a comic and as a human being." So, you got to write. You got to talk about what's going on in your life now.
If I was to, and I would like to, I actually should do this. I sent some old DVDs and VHS copies of doing stand-up at the Ice House in the early 90s to this thing called iMemories, and they rehash your shit and send it back to you on a hard drive.
Yeah.
And I want to look at what I was saying, why was I saying it, and quite honestly, the majority of what I was doing was just about being in my late 20s trying to go on a date.
Yeah.
Dating.
Yeah.
Dating, going to the gym, trying to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And whatever it was, then it started to change when you start to get a little bit older.
Yeah.
And it became more about family.
Yeah.
And then as the family changed, it became more of, how I view the world and what I would do.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until I went on Comics Unleashed and I said I would whack Osama bin Laden. I didn't even know that that was going to do something for me.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
another one of those aha moments,
Yeah.
like you said with the guys, Arabian Nights.
Yeah.
There's 15 million views, and I start booking all the work that I couldn't get.
Yeah.
I was begging people,
Yeah.
please, please, please. Then I end up booking these shows, and they're like, yeah, we're going to pay you this much money. You got to do 45 minutes. And I go, well, wait a minute. You saw me do a 2-minute joke.
Yeah.
What makes you think I could do the 45 minutes?
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, well, we really don't care. Just sell tickets.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't care. Well, that's what's going, nowadays, I think social media stars are, a lot of them that are stand-ups are actually stand-ups. But early on in the social media world, I would go to clubs and they would tell me, they'd be like, oh my God, this weekend's sold out. We got a guy coming as a YouTube star. He just shows up, he talks a little bit, and then he shows some clips and he talks about the clips, and that's it. So like you said, I think people discover you. They want people. That's the other thing we don't think about as much. Like that fan that came up to you early on, the kid on the TV gig.
Yeah.
People are fans of yours, and they really like they love you. They love what you do. We have that with certain artists that we love, so we're so excited to see them. You know what I'm saying? And so, as you just said, when that clip goes viral and people go, "Oh my God, I love this guy," the rest is icing for them because they're waiting for you to do that joke, of course. But if they can show up and you can take that, and by the way, you're seasoned at that point, so you're in the game for a long time. So that little hook that you have that caught them, now you're like, let me just take you on a whole other journey. And a lot of times people will come and be like, oh my God, I knew you from the Osama bit, but what a night, man! You made me laugh. My jaws hurt.
100%.
That's the kind of stuff you want to hear.
100%. Yeah, and like you just said, because you're seasoned, you could take a little bit of that joke and pepper it and put it back into something that you're doing now. Almost like you said, tell the story of, well, this is how I did what I did.
Yeah.
This is why this joke went this way.
Yeah.
And sometimes I even tell the real story. I was begging to go on Comics Unleashed.
Yeah.
And for a year and a half, they wouldn't give me the time of day.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden I get a phone call from Eric Pietkowski, who used to work at the Laugh Factory. And he goes, I'm over at Comics Unleashed. Come do the show. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
That's all it is?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, that guy didn't like you. I go, he didn't like me? I never even met him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I go on the show and he goes like this, listen, do me a favor. I need you to hit a home run. I'm new here. I'm like, well, I got an idea. I think this is going to work. And boom.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But then in your career, is there people that you wanted to be part of, a show you wanted to be part of, and you just couldn't crack the door?
I mean, we all have that kind of thing in our minds, and then you move on, right? So early on, I would have loved to have been out on Saturday Night Live, but I never even got to audition for Saturday Night Live. But that was for me because of Eddie Murphy, because all the stuff I'd watched, I would have loved to have been on it. Now, as I got older and I had a family, and he would read these books about like they're up, all night writing, and I'm like, I'm too old for them. I didn't want to do this. The other one was The Daily Show. I actually auditioned for The Daily Show, and in retrospect, and the timing was right, but I think rather than doing me, I did like a little bit of an accent. I didn't quite know what I was doing, and I didn't end up getting it. But again, in my mind, sometimes you go, oh, I wish I would have gotten this. I wish I would have gotten that. But you go, I'm kind of where I need to be. Like the more you say that, and the more you realize that, like I'm good right now. My touring is going great. I'm starting to do more social media stuff, and I will admit, I've been a little less productive when it comes to like TV ideas and stuff. I'm working on a couple things, but at the same time, I feel like you're cooked. Like you've arrived in many ways. You understand what I'm saying? It's like I feel confident and able to be a killer on stage. And like I said earlier, because sometimes we sit there and we're hard on ourselves. We're like, oh my God, I got to write something, this and that. And you go, I've been writing. I just haven't put it down. But all the act I'm doing, that's writing. So again, I try not to have too many like regrets. I wish I coulda, woulda. But that was probably one of them was The Daily Show, and the other one was Saturday Night Live. Those would have been, at least at a younger age, to try would have been cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes I wonder why I don't just sit in my house and say, what the hell am I trying so hard for anymore? I'm already where I need to be.
Yeah.
I don't really need to outcall.
Yeah.
The calls come in.
Yeah.
And it became do I say yes or no? Do I want it? I mean, I'm seriously booked for the rest of the year and into the first quarter.
Yeah.
Do I really need to chase after shit?
Yeah.
But sometimes I just do.
Yeah.
It could be an egotistical thing.
Yeah.
You know, recently I've been having a lot of our friends from the good old days of the Comedy Store come over.
Mm-hmm.
And each one said the same thing. Do you remember when we did this?
Yeah.
Do you remember when we did that? And I remember when, and I remember. And some of them, like yourself, still play at the Comedy Store from time to time. And every single one, and I'm talking, you would recognize every name, said, Mike, why don't you come back over?
Yeah.
How come you don't come?
Yeah.
And my ego starts to go, maybe I should. I probably could figure out a way to get back into the club.
Yeah.
I can't really show up and hang out, not at my age. I'm too tired and I'm busy anyway.
Yeah.
And I wonder, what would I be doing that for? For my own ego?
Yeah.
I'm not really going to know anybody unless you guys are all there.
Yeah.
I miss my era.
Yeah.
My era was what they were calling the dark times.
Yeah.
I remember every night where they were saying they're going to close the club.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I ended up going over to the Laugh Factory.
Yeah. Yeah.
And funny enough, it was Bobby Lee who got me my audition at the Laugh Factory.
Yeah.
People ask me all the time, why are you in line? I'm like, I'm auditioning for the Laugh Factory. You? I'm like, hey, man, it's showbiz.
Yeah.
You fucking eat your humble pie.
Yeah.
I got to do what I got to do. I got the audition, and I met Jamie, and then I ended up working there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But who knew? But I was working both clubs. I remember running up and down the street,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed every single moment of it. But then you start to realize, wait a minute, I need to earn a living.
Yeah.
And this small amount of money in my ego is nice, but you pay how much to do what theater where?
Yeah.
And you pay me to get there?
Yeah.
And you buy that flight?
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of like, it's like you graduate college and you go on. So a lot of those guys like you were talking about, like when I was doing Access to Evil with Ahmed and Aaron and Sam Tripoli, like we'd go down to La Jolla and do it down there, Arabian Nights. It was great. You're hanging with your buddies. But as you said, eventually, you have a life, you got a mortgage, I got a wife and kids, you got whatever you want. Like you've got whatever you want. You want a car, you want this, you want that. And by the way, you're getting good enough to do that hour and kill it. And by the way, you've got a fan base that want to see you. So of course you got to go on. And then what happens is once in a while you go on that road and you do your thing. And then for me, since I live in LA, when I'm in LA, I do the Comedy Store, Laugh Factory, Improv, and I love it. I still love, like I said, being like once in a while, I ended up at the Ice House actually recently, and it was me and Sebastian and Al Madrigal, Caroline Ray came by, Moshe Kasher, just these people that we see each other in passing, but it's always great conversations. Josh Nasser was there, always great conversations, and it's just we love comedians. That's why we do this.
Yeah.
Nemer, Abu Nasser, and by the way, I just named like people from all different backgrounds and walks of life, but they just come together in a room. At least for me, I've never been like, oh God, I hate hanging out with other comics. I love hanging out with comics.
Yeah.
Well,
comedians who are comfortable and secure with themselves. Back in the day, I was always rolling around with Wheels Parisi.
Yeah.
So me and Mike were together all the time.
Yeah.
And Mike was on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about how we got Sebastian into the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
It was really Wheels. But Sebastian, at that time, he brought us 2 bottles of wine. He was so
Hilarious.
appreciative and was happy. And that's when we started doing Night of 1,000 Guidos.
Yeah.
But I would give anything if we only had some pictures or some footage of me, Wheels, Luca Palenka,
Oh my God.
Brett Ernst,
Yeah.
and Sebastian in my 4-seater beat-up Jeep,
I love
driving from Hollywood down to San Diego to do 5 minutes and get in that Jeep and drive all the way back.
Yeah.
And everybody kicked in $1 for gas.
Yeah.
We used to have Sunday Italian Day.
Yeah.
All these Italian guys.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, Joe Diaz found himself
Joe
part of what
D.
we were doing.
Yeah.
You remember all those one-nighters I used to run, and everybody
Oh, yeah.
worked for like $25 and a sandwich.
Yeah.
But
Luca Palenka. My name is Luca. I live on the 2nd floor.
Yep.
He was great. Luca. Yeah. And Brett Ernst I'm still in touch with Brett from time to time. I actually was the one that helped Brett become a regular as well. Because,
is that right?
Yeah. So Mitzi was, we were doing it was a main room show, and Mitzi was there watching us. and Brett was on the show because it was like one of those like somebody was promoting it. It was outside promoter, and Mitzi's sitting in her booth, and then whoever it was at the time, Mitzi, like, you know, she was you know, helping us grow, so she wanted to see me. She goes, and I was later in the lineup. And so I'm in the hallway, and whoever the host or whatever was like, "Hey, Mitzi wants you to go next." And I go, "Really?" I go, "I wanted her to see Brett." And they go, "Well, she wants you next." I go, "Do me a favor, tell her you couldn't find me."
Oh,
So
wow.
I went and like hid somewhere.
That's big of you, man.
Yeah, I went and hid somewhere for Brett to go up and kill. And then I went up and had my set and I did well. But that night, Brett became a regular.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful, joyful story.
Yeah.
I remember one time they did do Night of 1,000 Guidos and Andrew Dice Clay and this woman, I forgot her name, but she was in Raging Bull in a lot of movies. And they hosted the show. Dice didn't get off the stage for like an hour.
Oh, really?
By the time we went on stage, everybody was gone.
Oh, yeah.
But we're sitting backstage looking at him going, man, it's fucking Dice.
Yeah, of course.
No social media.
Are you talking about Kathy Moriarty?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Why, you were there?
No, I wasn't there, but I know Kathy Moriarty. She was the whole story with Kathy Moriarty in Raging Bull goes that, so Pesci got the part because De Niro had seen him do in some late night mob. Pesci quit. You know all this, right?
No, he quit the business.
Pesci quit the business because he was a child. He used to act as like when he was younger.
Mm-hmm.
He as he's getting older, he's not getting the parts he wants. So he goes, you know what, screw it, I'm out of here. And he moves back to the East Coast, whatever, Jersey or New York, wherever he was. Starts working in a restaurant and is making like real money. He's touching the money. And De Niro, I guess at some point had been watching late night TV and some mob movie came on and Pesci was in it. So De Niro calls up Scorsese. He goes, I found the younger brother. And so then they supposedly call Pesci up and they go, De Niro's on the phone, Scorsese, and he's like, get the fuck out of here. He's like, you don't believe it.
Yeah.
And then they get him on the phone and then he goes, and they go, listen, we want you for this thing. He goes, listen, guys, I really appreciate it. But the truth is I'm here, I'm working, I'm loving what I'm doing because I'm making money finally. If you guys want me to do this, you got to come. I'm not coming to you. You got to come to me. So he makes them go see him there. This is how I heard it. And then, so obviously he becomes the brother and that blows him up again. But in the process, they're looking for the wife of Jake LaMotta. And Pesci happens to be at a club in New York and he sees Kathy Moriarty and he goes, this girl looks like the part you're looking for. So him getting the part the way he did, he then found her in a club and brought her to it. And then that made her who she was as well.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy? And then she opened up was it Delancey Pizza? What's it?
Mulberry Street Pizza.
There you go.
Where we were all hanging around back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember when they hosted a Night of 1,000 Guidos, and that's when all the Italian comedians came out. I mean, I can't even remember everybody's name. Even Joe Rogan did it. I never even knew he was Italian, but I actually have flyers.
Wow.
From the 90s.
Yeah.
I got to put them up on social media.
That's so cool.
That has everybody's name on it.
Yeah.
But I remember how I ended up working with Dice was because my father came to the Comedy Store to visit. He was in town visiting.
Yeah.
And my father was a big smoker, 2 packs a day.
Yeah.
And at that time, you could actually smoke in the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
So I didn't smoke. I imitated my father because he would do that.
Oh,
my father always did that.
Yeah.
And he wasn't imitating anybody. He was just my father.
Yeah.
You know, so Dice was in the parking lot. I'm hosting the show. Me and Freddie Soto used to host the Sunday night show. Rest in peace, poor Freddie Soto was such a great guy.
Yeah.
So my father comes inside and goes, hey, your buddy outside thinks you're great. He says he's going to help you out a little bit. He's going to take you on the road. And I go, who's my buddy? He goes, the guy out there in the parking lot smoking the cigarettes. I go, Dad, who's my buddy? What are you talking about? He goes, I don't know what the fuck his name is. He keeps on taking cigarettes from me. I go, Dad, you talking about Andrew Dice Clay? I don't know his name. He's over there.
Yeah, that's great.
And so Dice, from that on, always loved my father.
That's amazing.
Whenever you saw my father when we were at shows, I love your father. And you know why? Because he didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
My father was just like, whatever.
Yeah, that's the best.
Right?
Yeah, that's the best.
We all got great stories. We all got great lives. Maz is going to be touring like crazy, folks. You got to go see his show. He's one of the funniest guys alive right now. Hopefully, he's going to be touring back again with Ahmed. I hope we get to see that. I like Ahmed. He's a
Ahmed's
great
a good
man.
guy. Ahmed's a good guy.
I know you're
Aaron's
doing
a good guy. All the guys from the, we all started together. I mean, the truth is that we're all so, we all get so busy with everything else.
It's true too. You
we
grew to the point where
we did one Access to Evil reunion show down in Huntington Beach, which is funny because Huntington Beach is known to be like the most kind of like, I won't say like they're almost it's very right wing to the point of like anti-immigrant, like the Huntington Beach itself.
Really?
And it was funny. So Ahmed, the venue he had was, because Ahmed's always got the venue. So the venue he had was in Huntington Beach. I go, you sure this isn't a setup? And it was like, no, man, we went out, we did it, we had a good time. But yeah, man, those guys are doing their thing. I'm doing my thing, and who knows? Maybe we'll hook it up again.
Got to do a show with me.
Let's do it.
Mike Marino.
There you go.
I don't know what we'll call it. Axis of no evil.
Axis of pasta. The axis of pizza.
It's macaroni. Get it straight. Ladies and gentlemen, Maz Jobrani just came down to the basement. Maz, tell everybody.
Maz Jobrani.
I said Jobrani.
You said Babroni.
Jobrani. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media, buddy.
It's at Maz Jobrani, MazJobrani. Not Jabroni, Jobrani. Maz Jobrani on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. I'm on there.
He's
and watch
on
my
it.
I got a special, it's free. It's on YouTube. It's called The Birds and the Bees. So you don't need a subscription. You can watch the YouTube special, The Birds and the Bees. And if you got Netflix, you watch my Netflix special. It's called Immigrant. I got a lot of specials.
He's very special, this man.
I'm the only Middle Easterner who's got specials, and it's not a discounted rug when I say special. You understand?
He said it. I didn't. Ladies and gentlemen, Maz Jobrani. Hey, listen, we got to get going. Let me thank my producer, Tatiana Blue Shell, for always making sure we got a great guest and we put on a great show. Thank you guys for tuning in. My show, Live from My Mother's Basement, is exclusively on my YouTube channel, which is Mike Marino Live right here on YouTube. We're also on Spotify. And remember, you don't have to just listen to Spotify anymore. You can watch this show. We're also being listening to Italian American radio in New York City. We got to get going. Let's make America Italian again. You know my motto. You don't know nothing, you don't see nothing, you don't say nothing. And how do I end every single one of my podcasts? By saying the same thing with my guest. It's don't take no shit from nobody.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Don't take no shit from nobody. He did it. Hey folks, thanks for watching Live from My Mother's Basement. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, hit the word like and leave me a really cool comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the future episodes, and you can watch some of the funniest videos on the internet. You can also listen to the show on Spotify or your favorite podcast app.